Hello there and welcome to Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. My name is Jadel Kabira. This is our usual political conversations that are usually very simple, truthful and biased. Prof puts them in a hard-hitting way. I'm joined by him. Prof, how are you doing today?
Good.
So much to talk about. Supreme Court now, Elections Act. There's a section there, section 80. There's a big conversation on social media. Every lawyer trying to interpret it, every politician giving us their thoughts on it. But in case you've missed it, let me tell you what it says. An election court may, in the exercise of its jurisdiction, direct the commission to issue a certificate of election to a president, a member of parliament, or a member of county assembly, if upon a recount of the ballot casts, the winner is apparent and that the winner is found not to have committed an election offense. Now we're looking at this conversation and everyone is talking about it, both sides, Azimio, Kenya Kwanza, those that are say are neutral. But what do you make of this? Is the ball now going to be turned and going to be taken towards the Supreme Court, them given the mandate to announce what IBC Chair Wafula Chebukati announced, Ruto as president-elect?
You know, when I saw this thing doing the rounds, I thought it was fake. You know, even the one of Maina Kiai had been tweaked a bit.
Yes.
The text had been interfered with. So when I saw this, I didn't believe until the other day. I was sitting with having lunch somewhere, some young girls told me, but you can confirm. Then check. Then I knew it was true. Such a dangerous act.
Yeah.
Kipkroy said he's the one who was retained to drop the financing bill and this one, the Elections Bill.
Act.
But when you go to Parliament, the MPs played around with it to include this. Here it is.
Is this a
dangerous
dangerous act?
It's a dangerous thing.
The question here is, will the Supreme Court order a recount? And will they order a recount that involves all the ballot papers that people voted for? What does this mean if it gets to a point of, let's not have a rerun?
I'm not sure, but I hear Jubilee try to argue out that way. Let us recount the ballots, just to show NASA that we won this thing. I hear ballots were transported. I don't know that is true, but they're quite many. You'll need trucks upon trucks to transport from across the country.
Yes.
So I was on Twitter, and my friend General Miguna argued that I was illiterate and that it is not possible for the Supreme Court to recount 14 million ballot papers. I don't agree that it's not possible. You think they'll sit in one place with 14 and count? They can count them across the counties. Or they can have counting centers within regions, within counties. Wherever there's a court, can say this one take to Hamisi Court, take to Vihiga Court, where you come from. Where I come from, there are two courts. There's Vihiga and there is Hamisi. Other places, you can take there under supervision of the court. So it's quite possible, a little cumbersome, but that's not the point. The point I was trying to make is that the Supreme Court can interpret the meaning of the word recount so that it need not apply to the ballot papers. It can just be at what happened at Bomas. Look at the numbers at Bomas. Are they making sense? Do they favor Ruto or they favor Raila? If from 34A, then you go to 34B, as you move towards 34C or whatever it is found that it was Raila who was ahead. That to me, a court can consider to be counting the votes.
I'd want to know, now that we're thinking of recount or rerun, based on how you've witnessed this election, which is the best way to go? Should we go for a rerun, nullify the elections, or should we try the recount first?
You know, it's a very tricky thing. Very tricky. Let me tell you, it's very tricky. It's very difficult to talk about. Because supposing you go back to Bomas, just look at what happened in Bomas, and then found it was Raila, then declare Raila. How does Ruto take it? How do his people take it? It's very tricky. It can really bring chaos. But it can be as simple as just saying it was Raila. And then the court says, we have done our bit. Chebukati announced Raila and they go home. Raila is given the certificate and then he's sworn in.
Which one would you want to see? A recount or a nullification? Which one will be easier for the country? Because you're saying it's a very tricky question, it's a very tricky situation we are in. Of course, we talked about international bodies, journalists saying this is a boring election. At least now we're at peace. Which is the best situation for the country?
Let me tell you, nothing is easy. Even if you order for a rerun, there are many people who will not be happy. It will be costly. We will postpone whatever trouble we are going into. So if there is a way of just going back to Bomas and declaring the winner, whether William Ruto, and just confirm he's the winner, to me that will be easier. Okay. Just say, you people, you are making a lot of noise, but if you look at the numbers, actually it's William Ruto who has won. So Chapukati was right.
Based on this section...
Or they say, well, looks like Chapukati was a little sleepy, you can't blame him. He had been there for a number of days. So because he was sleepy, he confused Raila's numbers with Ruto's numbers and it's Raila. It's as simple as that.
Based on this Election Act, Section
Yes.
80, because it's a tricky situation also, yes. Is it interfering with the powers of the chairperson? Because the chairperson is the one to declare, that is his mandate, to declare the elections results.
You have declared, but the law says somebody can move to court, so somebody has moved to court and is ordering a recount. You are no longer, the ball is no longer in your court. It is now under the election court. It's not yours. You have done your bit. Okay. You have no more role. You can only come as a witness in court or to be questioned, a respondent. But it's not your, it's now in the court. Somebody else is asking the court. Those figures announced by Chepukati or whatever returning officer, their arithmetics is wrong. Can we count? It has nothing to do with you. Okay. Yeah, so the court's orders a recount. If they find your arithmetics was wrong, and the other person should have won, they say you go ahead. By the way, I never knew there was such a law. Because I always argued, why don't we have a law like that? I have followed many election petitions. And I've never believed why, at the end of an electoral process and in a petition, a guy gets away scot-free, unless he has committed what so-called election offense. Then we go back to another expensive by-election. I've never understood why. We should be having expensive by-elections. So for you... So if this is one way of avoiding expensive by-elections in a simple matter of just counting votes, I would support it. So for you, or even if somebody has been wronged so glaringly, and we can see if these things were not in place, he could have won. Not just a recount. Why don't you just declare him the winner? To save ourselves a lot of trouble. But the confidence of the people with this law, if you say declare them the winner, people will not be confident with how the ruling was brought about. First of all, nobody can be happy with everything. Whatever you do, some people will be against it. But let's put it this way. Chapukati tells us is Ruto who won. Ruto has won by numbers. Moja ukiongeza 5 inakuwa 6. 6 urudi uongeze 3 inakuwa 9. Lakini mahali akasema inakuwa 10. Sasa tukionyesha kweli, hata wewe unaona hii ni 6 ukiongeza 3. Ni 10 kweli, hata yeye aseme si 10 ni 9. Why should we go for another election? Maybe this is where I should ask you. You have looked at this election. Yes. Do you think Raila has a case? I'm yet to see. You see, you cannot win a case in the social media. What we are seeing are things in social media. They are disturbing, to say the least. But are they true? And if they are true, can you get the evidence to support? It may be true, more people voted for president, I hear about 500,000 in Mount Kenya, than they voted for all these other people. It may be true. Objectively, if you look, weka kura yote ya Raila na Ruto, there are 500,000 people who didn't vote for governor or anything else. That could be true. But what is the truth that it was a rigging strategy? You must show. Okay. In 2017, it was very easy. Justice Maraga started it. Philomena Mwilu, Smoking Wanjala, knocked it down. Say, well, you can vote for one. Nobody stops you. But where are the 5 ballot papers? When they bring the commissioners... No, that was very tricky for them. Yeah. No, maybe IBC is prepared now to answer the question. Maybe the people who were rigging, if they were rigging, are aware of that, and therefore there are those other blank papers. They can produce them in court. Here are 500 times I don't know what.
Right.
I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
They're easy, blank. Maybe they are ready.
When you look at now, we have the commissioners also. Juliana Cherera, the vice chair, says it's Chebukati who misunderstood them. He refused to verify results. Based on them themselves, what role will they play in this hearing in the Supreme Court? The four commissioners, and we know their role in
It is again very tricky. Lawyers may jump up and down and say Chebukati is a returning officer, but they are being selective. That's why I say, you know, some of these cases look difficult because, like, as if Azimio is now preparing a case. They are supposed to be handing it today, I think, something like that.
Yes.
They have been preparing a case. You know why some of these cases defeat them? They think these things are lawyers. No! If I was the one petitioning, I will have lawyers to drop, but other people like Manyora to sit there and look at the politics, the issues, and what have you. And even a mock presentation from the lawyers now as people like Manyora watch.
Will it sail through?
Yeah. You see now where people get wrong in this kind of thing, lawyers. Lawyer. No, some things are not law. Some things are more politics than law. A layman can see. So, these things, if you look at them and you want to apply law alone, they may be very tricky.
Because both sides will argue differently.
Yes.
Subject to interpretation.
Yeah. So what happens here? Is Chebukati the returning officer? Does it mean he does it alone? But elsewhere they say, it is IEBC that processes those things. IEBC shall tally, blah, blah, IEBC, and not Chebukati. Then the same lawyer who is arguing that Chebukati is the returning officer must also address this issue. When Azimio moved to court, who are they suing? Who is the respondent? It's IEBC. Not Chebukati. Chebukati is just a by the way, a returning officer, by the way. They can even exclude him. They can actually exclude Chebukati.
So it's a whole commission.
Yeah, it's a commission. And certain decisions regarding this case will have to be made by the plenary. Even including the lawyers they have to hire. It cannot be a Chebukati issue. Some of these issues will have to be made by the plenary. Affidavits will have to be sworn. So to answer your question, it's very difficult to see how to understand and for sure to say the four commissioners will sway this case or will be part of it. How do they apply to be part of the case, amicus, whatever, not amicus, to be enjoined in the case when it's the IEBC which is being sued? You are being sued and you want to be enjoined as part of the case. You are already the person, you are already the respondent.
But they blew the whistle.
But
so
I'm saying it's very tricky.
Yes.
But supposing at some entry point, you know, you must have a place where you can enter into a case. Supposing at a particular critical moment in the argumentation, they come with an affidavit. They have sworn affidavit or affidavits about a certain aspect of the case. It can be very messy for Chebukati and Ruto.
Or be called as witnesses too.
Yeah. It can be very tricky. So that's what I'm saying. This is beyond law. It's beyond lawyers. It is a question that requires people to look at it intelligently, soberly, and the judges are there watching and listening and asking a few questions. They can be very uncomfortable questions to those four commissioners. The Supreme Court judges can ask very uncomfortable questions about the four commissioners. Equally, they can ask very uncomfortable questions to the lawyer representing Chebukati. Very uncomfortable. How are we to believe you? Who is the respondent in this case? Supposing we said it's not the commission, it is Chebukati. Is he ready? Is your client ready to bear the full responsibility
of the commission
in the event of liability, including costs? It is not easy. No. Lawyers will tell you the law is clear. Clear where? This is not one of those places where the law is clear. This is one of those places where the judiciary, and I said in my video on Saturday, the judiciary, the Supreme Court is a political court. They are not bound by any law. No, they make law, they overturn law,
they interpret.
They interpret the law, they overturn their own decisions. They ignore their own decision. They dismiss.
Quite tricky.
You see, that's why the court has those powers.
Yeah.
Where looking at the law is not helpful, they look at other factors.
Okay.
And say, okay, hii kitu wacha ende irudiwe. Let's have a rerun. Why don't we recount these votes? Hii mambo isha haraka haraka. Ruto aendelee na kazi yake. Ama ipewe Raila.
Based on that, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Thank you so much. But before I wind up, someone ask Prof about Uhuru. Why is the president silent on this issue? What do you have to say about it?
The president, first of all, people have argued he's a chairman of Azimio. And therefore, to talk about this thing, like to recognize, to congratulate Ruto, is to admit his side has lost, and yet they are moving to court.
Okay.
But the simple answer is this. Our laws are clear. 7 days are given to anybody to appeal, to petition. They are ending. When they end, and nobody has appealed, then Uhuru moves into and say, Ruto, congratulations, you are the president-elect now.
Okay.
You're actually the president now. Unangoja tu kuapishwa. Even foreign countries that are quick to send messages, that's not how you do it. They know. They have ambassadors here. They know that there are 7 days. The 7 days window, if it closes, no petition, then you now send your congratulatory messages.
Yes.
So Uhuru is quite in order to keep quiet, to see how the country is moving. To speak at this time may also be a little tricky for him because he's Azimio chairman, he's also the president, he's aware the law gives people 7 days, and if this thing is going to the Supreme Court, his word can be beyond sub judice, can be seen as trying to influence the Supreme Court. Yeah. So yeah, he has to be very careful.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in. We do have these political conversations again. Have yourself a lovely rest of your day. Remember to tell your friends that we are always here. So subscribe, share the link, click the notification bell, and if you want to support us, click the join button. Thank you.